Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. In a federal courtroom in Manhattan, during one of the most closely watched trials in entertainment history, something unexpected happened. Not a headline, not a leak, but a name entered quietly into the official case file for the very first time. This isn't speculation. This is what happens when rumors reach the record. For the first time, Zendaya's name appeared in the official record. And the name directly tied to hers? Beyoncé Knowles Carter. A sealed envelope marked A-list supplemental reference, ZNC, was entered into record. Inside it, a 2019 sworn statement from a former Roc Nation assistant. Her name was redacted, but her access was undeniable. From Diddy's private guest lists to Beyoncé's most exclusive circles. And it all started with a single line. In October 2018, Beyoncé warned Zendaya not to go upstairs.
Okay, for now, focus here for a minute. Don't worry, their drama will keep going on. Think a little about yourself too. An Indonesian scientist has uncovered a shocking truth about belly fat, and it has nothing to do with diet or exercise. 95% of people who tried this strange bedtime ritual lost 25 pounds or more. Some even dropped over 50, all while sleeping. No gym, no starving, just one simple step before bed. It sounds crazy, but it's backed by science. Tap the link in the description and see for yourself.
No context, no explanation, just that. So here's what we know. It started with an invitation, framed as a private mentorship weekend. You know the type: empowerment, networking, creative energy, all those pretty words they use to dress up something that feels exclusive. Like this one, it came from Combs Enterprises. And it wasn't just another retreat in the hills. It was in Malibu at a property that doesn't show up on any real records. Owned through 3 different shell companies. No photos, no listing, nothing traceable. Zendaya, 22 at the time, was fresh off a wave of Disney stardom. She was in that strange space where Hollywood starts to see you as more than a child actor, but not quite. As a woman with power, she was still on her way, still trusting the process. So when that invitation showed up, of course she said yes. Why wouldn't she? It promised everything she thought she needed: connections, exposure, the next step. But here's the thing, nobody mentioned the NDA. Nobody said her phone would be locked up the second she stepped through the gates. Nobody told her how tight the security would be. Not VIP tight, control the air tight. But what really sticks with me, what changes the story, is what happened before she ever got there. 2 nights before the retreat, she's at a Tom Ford after party. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a crowd of beautiful people pretending to be casual. Zendaya's by the bar, sipping on ginger ale, trying to stay alert. Then, out of nowhere, Beyoncé walks over. No team, no fanfare, just her, calm, direct, focused. She touches Zendaya's wrist, gently looks her straight in the eye and says, clear as day, don't go upstairs, no matter what they say. That's it. No context, no punchline. Hey, just a warning. Zendaya lets out this awkward little laugh. Not because it's funny, but because what else do you do when Beyoncé tells you something like that? But Beyoncé doesn't laugh, doesn't move, just leans in, lowers her voice and adds, not everyone who goes up comes back the same. Then she's gone, disappeared into the crowd like nothing happened. Now here's the thing. Zendaya didn't tell anyone, not her team, not her friends. She didn't even write it in her notes app. She just packed her bag, got in the car when they told her, and 2 days later, she pulled up to that estate in Malibu. The wondering what Beyoncé meant. We didn't know it yet, but that sentence, it wasn't a metaphor. It was a map. The Malibu air was different, not just in the poetic sense. It literally felt different. Zendaya said later that the moment she stepped out of the car, the silence was too clean, no ocean breeze, no birds, just stillness, like the house itself was holding its breath. She was met by 2 men in black suits, not security guards, not assistants. These were the kind of men who didn't introduce themselves, just nodded and opened the gate. Behind them, the estate stretched like something out of a music video, modern, cold, polished. Everything about it screamed luxury, but none of it felt inviting. As she stepped in, the first thing they asked for was her phone. No hesitation, no smile, just, we'll return this after the weekend. Then the NDA. 4 pages printed on thick matte paper. No time to review. Just sign. Zendaya looked around. Other girls were already inside, sipping herbal tea, flipping through glossy folders. Everyone looked calm. Some were even excited. She told herself she was overthinking. Maybe Beyoncé had misunderstood something. Maybe this wasn't what it seemed. But then came the packing list. It had been emailed a day before the retreat, short and minimal, yoga clothes, swimsuit, neutral evening wear, and one final line at the bottom. Black outfit will be provided on site. No brand, no sizing questions, no explanation. Just a note that made her stomach twist a little. Still, she tried to shake it off. She was here now. She was going to learn, connect, grow, or at least that's what she told herself. Day one went by like a blur. Mindfulness workshops, a spiritual cleansing with crystals, and a panel led by a producer whose name she only recognized from closing credits. It all felt curated, controlled. No deep questions, no real connections, just smiles, photo ops, and phrases like frequency and activation. But everything shifted on night two. After dinner, no phones, no photos, no distractions. An assistant whispered in her ear, "You've been selected for the blessing ceremony." She paused. "Blessing?" The assistant just smiled. "It's upstairs. Inner circle only." And there it was again, upstairs. That word hit different now. Zendaya asked, "Who's upstairs?" The reply came like a riddle. "Only the ones who understand power." She felt it, her body reacting before her mind could catch up. A tightness in her chest, a chill down her spine. She nodded politely, excused herself, and walked calmly down the hall. Into the bathroom. And then she locked the door and froze. No signal, no phone, no way to text for help. She stared at her reflection, tried to breathe, tried to convince herself this was all in her head, but it wasn't, because what happened next confirmed everything. She didn't go back to her room. She didn't grab her things. She went straight for the front door. Security stepped in, not with force, just posture, a block. And he said, "Is something wrong?" Zendaya didn't flinch. She looked them in the eye and said, "Beyoncé sent me." And they moved. No argument, no question. It's a silent understanding that whatever she meant, it was enough. She walked out alone, no one followed, she never went back. It should have ended the moment she walked out that door. But for Zendaya, Malibu didn't stay behind. It followed her. The next morning, she showed up on set like nothing had happened. Hair and makeup, wardrobe, call time, smile on cue, but her mind still stuck on that hallway, still stuck on the question, what was upstairs? Inside her trailer, something was waiting. No assistant, no courier, just a red envelope, no stamp, no name, just a single number written in pencil, her trailer number. She picked it up slowly. It was heavier than it looked. Inside was a thick folded sheet of paper and nothing else. When she opened it, she didn't see a message, just a list. No title, no explanation, just names, first initials, last names. Some she recognized, some she didn't, but one thing was impossible to ignore. Her name was there, and it had been crossed out in red ink. The names below her, still clean, still untouched. And right then, she knew. Someone wanted her to see that. Not just that her name had been added, but that someone had made the choice to remove it, to mark her, to send a message. Her hands shook. She stared at the page for 10 whole minutes, just staring. No instructions, no threat, just a receipt. A week later, her team got a call, a private ambassadorship offer, no public announcement, no sponsor logos, just a legacy empowerment fund and a 7-figure discretion clause. She declined. 2 days after that, a magazine cover shoot she had been booked for, gone. No apology, no explanation. It's pulled off the calendar. And still, she stayed quiet. She didn't go online, didn't post cryptic quotes, didn't drop hints in interviews. She just moved forward, or at least tried to. But by 2023, everything changed. The Diddy investigations went public, and in those leaked documents, one phrase stood out: ritual parties. That was the moment she broke. She picked up the phone, called her lawyer, and said, if they start naming names, mine was on that list. That's when she gave her first formal statement. Filed under protective order, labeled Exhibit 39D, she wrote, I was invited into something I didn't understand, and I walked away before I could. But I remember the names, I remember the hallway, and I remember the smell of the second floor. Smoke, sweat, steel. She ended it with, I didn't leave because I was brave. I left because someone told me not to go upstairs. It had been almost 5 years since the Malibu retreat. She had stayed silent. She had stayed safe until the league. In March 2023, A 23-second security cam clip was anonymously uploaded to a foreign server. The timestamp, October 14th, 2018, the exact weekend of that so-called retreat. The footage was grainy, low res, but you could see it. Zendaya walking out of the front door, fast, focused, determined, not running, not scared, just leaving. But right before the frame cuts, someone else appears. A tall woman, all black, face just out of view. But if you knew the industry, if you knew the timeline, you knew exactly who it was. Oh, she went upstairs and no one has seen her publicly since late 2019. The court sealed the video, but Zendaya confirmed it. That was me. That was the night. And I know who followed. Then came the package. 3 weeks later, no return address, no sender name, just a word handwritten on the front, they've forgotten. Inside, a single USB stick and a note typed in old school courier font. You left the room, but the room remembers you. Her team begged her not to open it, but she did. The footage was raw, unedited. It showed a private room, candles, cushions, 3 women in black robes, sitting cross-legged. No one spoke at first. The camera was static. The audio was barely there, but then a voice cut through. Number 4 didn't return, we'll adjust. Male voice. Familiar. Then laughter, then silence. Zendaya didn't tell anyone right away. Oh, she waited until June 2023 when Cassie's unsealed testimony dropped. And that's when she saw it. 4 per circle, all in black. She printed the headline, grabbed a red Sharpie, and across the top, she wrote 5 words. That was me, I remember. That printout was filed as Exhibit 39F. Attached to it was a short addendum, her first true admission. I never made it upstairs, but I stood at the bottom. I remember the voices, and I remember the silence that came after. If someone hadn't warned me, I don't know if I'd still be here. By the fall of 2023, Zendaya was filming again. New project, new city. She was in Atlanta this time, working long nights under studio lights, moving through scenes like muscle memory. From the outside, she looked focused, professional, polished, fine. But on one cold night, the illusion cracked. It was late, past 2 a.m. The set was quiet. Her phone, which was supposed to be powered off per studio policy, suddenly lit up inside her trailer. Private number, no name, no ID. She hesitated, staring at it like it was alive. Then she answered. There was no voice, no static, just the sound of slow, heavy footsteps. Pacing, unhurried, calculated. Then came the sound of a lighter, a flick, then another. And then nothing. The silence after that wasn't peaceful. It was watching her, measuring her. She didn't say a word. Just slowly ended the call. That same morning, her publicist called with news, her voice already frantic. But Zendaya didn't need the full sentence. She already knew. One of the women from that Malibu retreat, the same one she had left behind, had just been admitted into a psychiatric facility. No public charges, no press coverage. Just a quiet statement from a family representative. She hasn't been the same since 2019. Zendaya stood in her trailer, unmoving. For almost an hour, she didn't sit, didn't blink, didn't speak. She just stood there, holding on to that silence like it was the only thing that made sense. Then she made a call she hadn't made in nearly 3 years. And Beyoncé answered on the first ring. No hello, no how are you, just a breath on the other end of the line, steady and present. Zendaya's voice cracked as she whispered, "They're still watching." There was a pause, and then Beyoncé finally responded, soft, quiet, unmistakable. You think they forgot? Another pause, baby. That's what they want you to think. Zendaya swallowed. The fear had changed shape. It wasn't panic anymore. It was clarity. She asked the one question that had been eating at her since that red envelope first showed up. Was there ever a list? The phone line crackled, but Beyoncé didn't answer, not yet. The line crackled for a second, and then Beyoncé whispered 4 words Zendaya would never forget. There's always a list, not a myth, not a metaphor, a real list. One that didn't just track names, it decided fates. Later that same week, a small white envelope appeared tucked under Zendaya's windshield. No logo, no stamp, no name. Inside, a single card typed in the same cold courier font as before. It read, "We adjusted. She remembered too much." Zendaya didn't call the press. She didn't go online. She didn't blink. The next morning, she packed a bag, left Atlanta quietly, and flew to Houston. For the first time since 2018, she sat across from Beyoncé. No entourage, no stylist, just two women at a table and a manila folder between them. It's not your file, Beyoncé said, gently, but it's one you should see. So that was an NDA dated 2015. It wasn't hers, but it came from a Combs-affiliated property. The strange part wasn't the date. It was a clause at the bottom. Nonverbal consent inferred via presence and dress code adherence. Zendaya stared at that line, feeling sick. Did anyone actually sign this? She asked. Beyoncé didn't speak. She simply tapped one name at the bottom, KL. Next to it, in handwriting, refused, was a name Zendaya had never seen on any of the guest lists. She asked what happened to him. Beyoncé looked out the window. Her voice was quiet. He asked what was upstairs. He didn't like the answer. Next week, his entire catalog was frozen. No label, no rep, no reissue. He's not blacklisted, he's erased. Zendaya looked back down at the folder. Why are you showing me this? She whispered, because Beyoncé didn't answer right away. She pulled out another folder. This one looked familiar, the same 2018 guest list from Malibu, but the ink had changed. Her name, once crossed out in red, was now black. She flipped the page. Another name caught her eye, someone she hadn't thought about in years, a young actress. Big for a minute, then gone. Her name wasn't crossed out, not circled, highlighted. They don't cross out the ones they can still use, Beyoncé said. Exhibit 39H. Zendaya's lawyer photographed the folder. The handwriting matched 3 other sealed documents tied to Cassie's civil case. Same pen, same hand. Zendaya sat back in her chair. Beyoncé poured her a glass of water, then said something that landed like a stone. I can't tell you who's safe, only who's been warned. Zendaya barely spoke. Just one more question. So what does this mean for me? Beyoncé looked her dead in the eye. It means they'll stop sending messages. They're watching to see what you do next, because the ones who disappeared don't scream. They whisper. But a month after that meeting, Zendaya was back in LA, back to work, back to pretending nothing had happened, until something slipped. Not in court, but in a podcast. A mid-level music journalist started talking about fame and memory. Then, mid-convo, dropped a line that stopped her cold. You ever hear that story from 2018? What about one of the 4 girls at Diddy's retreat who just left? They say number 4 didn't return, not mentally. The host laughed, shrugged it off. But Zendaya didn't laugh. She watched the clip 10 times. Because number 4 didn't return was the exact sentence whispered in that grainy USB footage she received months ago. She sent the clip to Beyoncé. No reply, but that night, her assistant called her. You need to see this. A Reddit thread, an anonymous account titled The Journal She Never Meant to Leak. Screenshots, pages of real handwritten from someone else who had been at that same Malibu retreat. No name attached, but Zendaya recognized the handwriting instantly. They told us it was spiritual, said it would clear our fears. But upstairs felt like silence wrapped in power. I wore the robe, I followed directions. I didn't say no, I just stopped saying anything. And the line that gutted her. When they took her phone, she smiled. When they took mine, I felt like my name was being shaved off my skin. Zendaya printed the journal, took it straight to her lawyer. It was submitted as Exhibit 39I, now flagged under seal as a pattern witness statement. That night, for the first time, Zendaya wrote her own journal entry. 1 page is dated October 2023. They stopped sending envelopes. I stopped whispering threats. Stopped calling because they think I understand now. She paused, then wrote, the silence protects me. That fear keeps me working. And finally, if my name's already on the list, then they can't scare me off it. She folded the page, sealed it, filed it under a new heading. Zendaya, non-voluntary testimonial, initial draft, not public, not yet. But it ends with 5 words. I never went upstairs, but I remember the door. Weeks after Zendaya filed her sealed testimony, she got a message she never expected. From a Netflix producer, not a stranger, not some industry vulture fishing for gossip. And this was someone she'd worked with before. Friendly, direct, trusted. The message was short. Have you ever received a red robe invitation? Zendaya stared at the text. Her heart skipped once. She typed back 2 words. Excuse me? The typing bubble appeared and then disappeared. An hour later, the meeting they had scheduled vanished from her calendar. No reason, no reply, just gone. The next day, her assistant handed her a sealed box. Old, dusty, and unmarked. It had been sitting in her stylist's storage for years, forgotten, untouched. Inside, old scripts, accessories, small notes from another version of herself, but at the bottom, tucked into a folder labeled Final Dressing Room Copy, she found it. A printed memo, no logo, no context, dated 2018. Subject line, participant Z, that is unrobed, reassigned, and one line was highlighted in yellow. She declined the ritual. Zendaya just sat there, holding it. She hadn't worn the robe. She hadn't gone upstairs, but now it was clear. They noticed, they always had. He told her lawyer quietly, they never needed me to sign anything. They were already tracking behavior. That memo became Exhibit 39J, a verified recovery document from her dressing room. The handwriting matched other event logs in the Combs Global Archive. Court verified, undeniable, but it wasn't the paper that broke her. It was what came next. A voice note of a blocked number, female, young, trembling, one line. I'm still in the ID house. I never left. Then static, in silence. Zendaya didn't cry. She didn't panic. She picked up the phone and asked her attorney for the official filing paperwork. Not to sue, not to press charges, to sign her name, to leave it on record permanently. The lawyer asked her gently, are you ready for what that means? Yeah, she answered. This isn't about me anymore. It's about the next girl standing at that staircase and the voice that doesn't reach her in time. Her signed declaration, now Exhibit 39K, remains sealed under federal protection. But one line from it is public, typed in bold. They called it a circle, but I never saw anyone come back around. A week later, Zendaya was doing press, light stuff, fashion, fragrance, surface level confidence talk, but then the interviewer went off scrim. How do you stay grounded in an industry that doesn't always feel real? Zendaya smiled, paused, and answered softly, you learn to hear things that aren't said. You learn which doors not to open, and more importantly, when to leave before they close. She didn't elaborate. The segment was cut short, but the clip spread online like wildfire. Most people thought she was just being poetic. Only a few knew what she really meant. Later that night, her assistant walked into her dressing room holding a single white card. No envelope, just a name crossed out. Same handwriting, same ink as the Malibu files. Zendaya read it, didn't flinch. She folded it slowly and slipped it into her journal. Said nothing. She went home and wrote one final entry. Dated, November 2023. I didn't survive the room. I escaped before it locked. Not because I'm strong, but because someone said I don't go upstairs. There are people still in that house. People who wear the mask so well, they don't even know it's a mask anymore. But I remember the robe, the voice, the whole way. In that list, I never asked to be on it. But now that they don't get to tell the story without me. She never published that entry online. But her legal team submitted it as Exhibit 39L, the final page in her sealed case file. No litigation, no press tour, just a quiet record, stamped, verified, filed, signed, Zendaya, and beneath her name, one last handwritten line, this time in red ink. This is for the girl at the bottom of the stairs. You don't have to go up. You just have to leave. Zendaya never gave a press conference. She never released a tell-all. She didn't need to, because her story isn't about headlines. It's about what's left unsaid, about the rooms you never see, the doors you never open, and the names you never hear. Until it's too late. She's supposed to disappear, but instead, she documented everything. Not for revenge, not for fame, but for the girl who hasn't been warned yet. Because this story was never about who went upstairs. It's about the one who didn't. And the price she paid to walk away